Hi, I'm Davina Shemaya, and just like you, I'm recovering from complex post-traumatic stress disorder and narcissistic abuse. And today I'd like to talk about another key to healing, and that is self-love. And there's a lot of talk about self-love, so I want to go into detail about what that really means, what it means to love ourselves. And C-PTSD is really the result of our parents abandoning us. And I suppose, from a real perspective, they were just being themselves. They weren't even trying, they weren't like getting up in the morning thinking I'm going to abandon my child or anything. They just, again, weren't capable, but I don't want to give them too many excuses. So onwards. So yeah, when we are raised with that kind of abandonment, then we are programmed, basically like a robot, is programmed to abandon ourselves. So it's a very unconscious process that we end up just doing. We're just continually abandoning ourselves in different ways, through self-harm or through unhealthy relationships or through, jobs that aren't financially supporting us or whatever it is, in big ways and in the small ways too, that we abandon ourselves, maybe just even on a daily basis, staying up too late or, of course, as humans, we all lose track of that sometimes. But if we have, if we've had narcissistic parents, then it really is, just this ongoing unconscious thing that of not loving ourselves, because we didn't learn how to love ourselves because our parents didn't love us. At least didn't love us the way we needed to be loved. And so self-love is really the way back to a wholeness, to fully accepting all of ourselves. And this self-love leads us back to a place of deep inner peace. And this is not a quick fix or something that, happens overnight, of course. This takes years and years and really just decades of work. But I do believe, after, for myself, almost a decade now of recovery work, that I am really starting to see the benefits of this healing. So yeah, I think the number one thing is in around self-love is just our self-talk and starting to say loving, kind, comforting things to ourselves, encouraging things, because our parents did quite the opposite. It was usually harsh or critical or, just belittling or, many things that really were not loving at all. Or it could have been even just at such a superficial kind of level that also, we never felt like, that kind of love and connection. So this is a hard thing to do because, again, we've just been programmed to also be harsh on ourselves and beat ourselves up and criticize and all that stuff. And so it really, and if we're going about our day and this thing is just running in the back of our head, it can be very hard to get out of that. So yeah, I think, in the beginning, I just use very simple things like just, I love you, just, trying to keep it simple. And I think, the best thing to do is to, set aside a couple of times a day, where 2 or 3 times a day, where you can pause in your day and just sit down even for 5 minutes and just, give yourself those positive statements. If you have to like write them down in the beginning, and you know, whatever those comforting phrases are, like I'm with you and I love you and, you know, you're doing great, or whatever those kind of phrases are for you. And just start practicing. And it, yeah, it's it's, you know, it still doesn't come completely natural to me, and that might take, yeah, again, decades to really to be like, oh, my self-talk just naturally is, but it's not natural yet anyway. So that's number one. Number two, for loving ourselves, is to accept and allow our emotions, and in a compassionate and supportive way. So like really just that giving ourselves that unconditional love, like no matter what you feel, I love you and I'm here for you. And I'm not trying to fix you. I'm not trying to change your emotion. I'm not trying to cheer you up. I'm just here with you, holding space as you experience that feeling, knowing that you are not that feeling. And, you know, I think of the children that I've taken care of, and, you know, my love for them never depended on, you know, what they were feeling in the moment. If they were frustrated, I still love them. You know, sometimes that made me frustrated, or sometimes that triggered my frustration as well. But, you know, whether they were sad or sick or, you know, exuberant, or all those emotions, angry, scared, you know, I loved them just the same. And so, you know, it's really a good lesson for me in terms of learning, oh, you know, I can try at least to give that to myself. Like, oh, I'm feeling depressed, and I can still just give myself love. Or if I'm feeling really excited, I can love myself in any way, you know. Again, as opposed to our parents, who generally denied our emotions, shamed us for having our emotions, you know, just made us think that we weren't supposed to be feeling that way. And so again, it can be very hard to like weed out kind of those supposed to's or shoulds. Like even this morning, I noticed, like, I was feeling peaceful. I thought I was feeling peaceful, but I'm like, wait a minute, there's some fear here too, you know? So it's not always just black and white either. We often have a mix of emotions. So it's, you know, so then I kind of needed to validate that fear. Like, yes, I'm feeling quite peaceful, but, you know, there's some fear here, not just I should be feeling peaceful, because sometimes I get into that, well, I feel peaceful and I shouldn't, I want to keep this peace. But yeah, just validating whatever is coming up, and just allowing it. Number three is boundaries. This is such a huge one, and it's really, I think, maybe the like kind of the foundation of you know, self-love is boundaries. And you know, it's really, you know, as simply put, it's saying no to things that are no longer serving us. And it's, you know, a boundary is an action. It's not just a word. You know, it's great to say things like I love you and to ourselves, but again, we know that that doesn't mean anything unless it's backed up by the action of setting and holding a boundary. And each time we set a boundary, we gain back some of that self-trust and that self-love. And it, you know, I can remember like setting a boundary at work, you know, a few years ago, and I'd been experiencing quite a bit of anxiety. And I noticed, even just after that one boundary, how much my anxiety and how much more comfortable and safe I felt at work. And so, you know, our anxiety is because we don't feel safe in the world, because we didn't have any boundaries growing up. You know, our parents violated, disrespected, disregarded, or just completely ignored our boundaries. So we didn't know what it was like to be able to say, you know, that's a no for me, you know, or sorry, can't do that, you know. And or just that doesn't work for me. Could I making our needs and feelings known, and getting the respect back. So as we gain this self-trust back, it really lessens the feeling of the abandonment depression. And the abandonment depression can be, I feel like now that I've experienced, like for 10 years, it's, sometimes I think it's really subtle, just this sense of kind of exhaustion, like heaviness, and like just a real like feeling like you're moving through molasses kind of feeling, the abandonment depression. And it can be heavy, or can be just kind of a little bit of it. But it's again, it's the sense, once we lessen that abandonment depression, we gain back our sense of connection, our sense of belonging, because we're connecting with ourselves, because now we're connecting with our inner truth and our inner deep core values, and we're acting from that. Then we start to connect with ourselves, and our sense of, we actually feel less lonely, because now we're connecting with ourselves, and then we feel a sense of belonging, like I belong here and I deserve to have my needs met. And so we create that for ourselves, that sense of belonging and connection, which starts within. Setting boundaries also can ease, as I sort of said in my example of work, it eases the abandonment anxiety, because we can just be floating around in the world with no sense of like, having no limits, just like going along with things all the time, because we're so used to just going along and trying to fit in, and not, rocking the boat, not having any confrontations with people. And it may seem like the easy way, but it really isn't. It really causes us a lot of anxiety. So once we start setting the boundaries, it leads us to a more place of safety and security. And again, it's a really deep kind of core feeling of like, I belong here and I'm safe here. And so boundaries can start to decrease your shame and your fear. Another aspect of self-love is being truthful with ourselves. And as codependents, we continuously lie to ourselves, and then we lie to other people as well. So, we do hurt others through our own, through our own kind of mental disorder of codependency. So it's important to know that, and to be humble about that we have hurt people as well, just as much as narcissists hurt people. I feel like it's a little, maybe not quite as much, but anyway, it is damaging. I noticed, especially in my job hunting, how much I realized, oh my God, I'm just lying. Like wow, that's coming out of my mouth, and that's not truth. For example, you'll say, like I found, like saying like, sure, I can do that, when inside you're really going, no, I really can't do that. Or yeah, that's okay for me. Yeah, okay. When actually it isn't okay for you. Or no, I don't mind at all, right? When truly you do mind, or, it's no problem, or, well, it's not that bad, when it is. And so, these kind of phrases like, we end up just lying to ourselves, and then getting ourselves into situations which, are not a match, or are not feeling good, of course, because, we're doing things that go against our truth and our integrity. And validating our true feelings and thoughts is really part of this, a validating of, oh, this actually isn't okay for me. Actually, this really triggers frustration for me. And actually, no, that's not okay for me. Actually, that brings up a lot of shame or exhaustion or whatever it is, overwhelm. So yeah, it's a validation of ourselves. And again, like our parents did the exact opposite. They invalidated us, they gaslit us, they dismissed our feelings and, basically tried to control us by saying, no, you don't feel that way. So it's, yeah, and this can be a really hard process, because the reason we lie is because we're trying to fit in, we're trying to be accepted. But this doesn't work, because what is being accepted is a false self, right? So then we're what? We're just fitting in as a false self, which means nothing. So yeah, we have a deep fear of abandonment, and therefore we lie to try and please and fit in. And we feel scared that we'll be left alone if we leave, but actually it's staying in these unhealthy relationships and situations that makes us feel disconnected and lonely, because we're not connected with ourselves and we're not connected with God. And that brings me to kind of the final point here, and that is that self-love returns us to our divine self, to our higher self, and that self is connected with source, with God, with whatever you want to call that. And yeah, I've really come to learn that, from the last job situation I had, that I was being so codependent, and it just ended up a mess, just a disaster. And I was so stressed and unbalanced and just in a really not good place. And now that I've quit that job and I've surrendered to God, I truly understand the meaning of surrendering to God and following God's way and God's plan for me. Because God, when I'm following God, I'm like, wow, I feel peaceful, I feel freedom, I feel hope, and I feel good about myself, I feel enough. So yeah, it's an ongoing practice to surrender to God, and to every day just be like, okay, I can do it the codependent way. I can do it, out of shame and fear, how my parents taught me and brainwashed me, or I can do it, do life following God and being that humble servant of God, and understanding our place as human beings here on earth. So that's what I wanted to share with you today on self-love, and be gentle with yourself as you are learning to love yourself, because it is something that we are learning. And so, like anything else, be gentle as you figure things out, and of course, again, make mistakes and slide into, probably constantly sliding into the other, like the shaming and the critical kind of voice. And yeah, so I hope that brought you some sort of inspiration today. And I'm wishing you many, many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And I am Davina Shemaya at Boldness Blooming. Thanks for watching.